Okay, you're very welcome to this webinar by the University of Galway on the sustainable management of water, aquatic ecosystems and marine resources. My name is Richard Manton. I'm the Director of Sustainability here at the university. I'm delighted that we have some excellent speakers to give you some presentations on some of the teaching and research and engagement in the area of water here at the university. And then I'll just come in towards the end to launch our Sustainability Engagement Fund. So just to introduce you to our speakers, we'll first have Professor Francis Fahy to introduce the University of Galway Research on Water and Environment. We'll then have Professor Xinmin Zhan on water engineering, wastewater engineering, key to clean environment, sanitation and a sustainable future. He'll be followed by Dr. Liam Morrison on It's All About Water, Water Means Life. We'll then have Professor Olivier Thomas to speak about the Irish Marine Biomaterial Repository. Then, as I mentioned, I'll just come in at the end to speak to launch our University of Galway Sustainability Engagement Fund. If you do have questions throughout the webinar, if you could please use the Q&A function, and then we'll either try to answer them during the webinar or we will leave some time at the end. So with that, I'll hand over to Francis Fahy.
Thank you very much, Richard, and thanks to you and everyone in the Sustainability Office for organising this seminar and indeed this fund. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. Francis Fahy, Director of Divine Institute, and really on behalf of Divine Institute, I just wanted to wish you all a warm welcome. Divine Institute is the largest research institute we have at the University of Galway, and we've over 500 sort of affiliated members, and a number of the SPGs are of keen interest, obviously, through the breadth of our research space. But I was delighted that Richard and the team got together some of our excellent academics and researchers in the area of marine and water, in obviously all areas to do with ensuring the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation, as well as conserving and sustaining the way we use oceans and seas and marine resources for sustainable development. We are really fortunate within our university here that we have not only some of the best natural scientists in the world leading in the area of sort of marine zoology, biology. We have researchers and colleagues involved in marine biodiscovery, ocean modelling, but we also, across all of our disciplines, looking at our engineers and social scientists. We have colleagues involved in maritime security. We have a range of colleagues involved in marine planning, and I think all of these expertise really give a sense of how strong and moving forward, how important obviously these teams are to our research community. I don't need to tell people on this webinar that we are in one of the best locations in the world to be exploring these themes. Galway is the gateway to the Atlantic. We have not only a wealth of expertise within our own university, but we're very fortunate to be building up our collaborations with our colleagues from ATU, and I'm so delighted that some of them are here today. We also have the excellent networks with our marine institutes, and access to vessels and access to data has meant immense really for our research and we're moving forward. Importantly, and I think when we talk about sort of transdisciplinary research, that our contacts and our networks with our local communities, our local coastal communities, as well as our local industries in the area of water and ocean food, and they are a huge asset to us all. And I have to say that this is one of the areas that I'm really excited about when it comes to the Divine Institute and its future direction over the coming years. So absolutely thrilled today that we have such fantastic researchers, all of the members of the Divine Institute, to give you a sense of their in-depth work on these very important sustainable development goals. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Francis, for that. So now I'll hand you over to Professor Xinmin Zhan from the School of Engineering. And I know, Xinmin, you have your own slides, so I'll just stop sharing here.
Okay, so Richard, I will share my slides. Can you see my slides, Richard?
Yep, they look good.
Okay. We set up my time. Yeah, thank you very much, Richard, for giving me the opportunity to introduce my research. So my name is Ximin Zhan. I'm a professor of civil engineering, and my research area focuses on water and wastewater management. In the presentation, at first, I will introduce, the importance of water engineering. Then I will explain why wastewater treatment is critical to achieving sustainable development goals, and not one goal, not two goals, actually quite a lot of goals. And also, I will finish my presentation with the 3 examples. So before I start my presentation, I would like to ask the audience to think a question. If we compare two professions, medical doctor and a civil engineer, so which one you think saves the most lives in the world? So I don't want to use this question to raise some discussion on career bias, but I do want to use this question to make the audience being aware that civil engineers actually save quite a lot of lives in the world. So I use 3 examples. So first example happened in 1854 in London. So on Broad Street, there was a cholera outbreak, and in 1 week, 616 people were killed. Then for the audience who lived in Galway before 2007, so we should remember that there was a boil water notice in Galway city, and this was due to an outbreak of Cryptosporidium. Then for the third example was that, I see it was taken in Africa. So 2 children were drinking dirty water, that the water was not drinkable at all. So actually in the world, 1 in 4 people doesn't have access to safe drinking water, and unsafe water is responsible for more than 1 million deaths every year. So for our water engineering covers a lot of areas, but there are 2 areas that are quite important. One is water supply. So this water supply, this means that we treat water to a high standard, so they are drinkable. The second one is the wastewater treatment. So we treat wastewater, so in the case we don't not damage our environment and ecology. So you can see, after we drink a lot of water, and also there we give a lot of water to livestock. So when after we drink water and the livestock, we will produce pee and poo. So this is part of wastewater. And for the industry, they also produce a lot of wastewater after their manufacturing process. And in the agriculture sector, after farmers apply fertilizers and pesticides, then the water will get contaminated with these high levels of pesticides and fertilizers. So they will also become a wastewater. But for most audience, they don't know, where the wastewater goes, because all our wastewater is in the Galway city is sent to wastewater plant through the pipes under the ground. So we don't see this, but sometimes we do see the direct discharge of wastewater to the rivers and lakes. This is a photograph taken in Canada. Recently, you can see there was a direct discharge of sewage to the Galway Bay. So after the wastewater is discharged to the water environment, then it will cause quite serious consequences. So I'm sure that many people are know this photograph, it was taken in Paris Olympics. So the triathletes vomit more than 10 times after swimming, okay, because of their high E. coli levels in the river. And when you do traveling, you do see some lakes are covered with green algae. Okay, this was caused by the evacuation of water because of discharge of wastewater. So when the rivers are covered with this green algae, then the oxygen level in the water will be very low. This will kill fish. And also some wastewater from industry, even from our human body, from our human lives, the wastewater contains emerging contaminants, for example, heavy metals, antibiotics. These contaminants will kill the fishes in the lakes and rivers. And also if we irrigate, use this water to irrigate crops, then the emerging contaminants will transport to their crops, and then finally they will go to our bodies. And this, of course, will do harm to our health. So let's look at the water quality in Ireland, because we know there's a lot of rain here. So people never think that, okay, water quality actually is not very satisfactory in this country. So EPA has recently published a report about the state of the environment in Ireland. So the report talked about the quality of air, soil, water, biodiversity, and climate actions. But I will only put some data from about water here. So you can see for the water in this country, 46% of surface water actually is not satisfactory, is less than good status. So 46%, this is quite a high number. So the overall assessment has, is one word, poor. This is for a country that has a lot of rain. It rains every day. But if we look at the outlook also is not optimistic. It says it's partially on track, achieving full compliance of measures in place of planned. Okay, so this means that we need to have a lot of practice available to treat wastewater before it goes to the water environment. So if we look at the wastewater, wastewater is very complex. It contains a lot of inorganic and organic chemicals. Okay, one, it has water, okay, H2O, water, and then it has organic matter. Okay, so like carbohydrates and fats, discharged by our human, and then it has nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay, and also it has pathogens, antibiotic resistant genes, and it has emerging contaminants. For example, we uptake antibiotics, but unfortunately, most of these antibiotics are not absorbed by our bodies, so they will go to the environment through our urine. So we need to treat wastewater, and treatment of wastewater is quite critical to achieving sustainable development goals. Okay, so Francis have just mentioned that water treatment is definitely will achieve the goal 6, the clean water and sanitation. But also, as I just mentioned before, we need to remove pathogens. Otherwise, it will damage our health. So this will good to achieve good health. And these emerging contaminants, okay, are not good for lives below water and on land. And if we can use nitrogen and phosphorus in the wastewater as chemical fertilizers, okay, then we can, boost the agriculture output. So this is good for SDG 2, zero hunger. Okay, and actually, if we can use organic matter cleverly, we can get cleaner energy, and also we can reduce the greenhouse gas emission. Okay, if we can, and also we can recover we're going to reuse their water. And for example, in Singapore, a significant portion of their drinking water actually is reclaimed from wastewater. So this is very good for Sustainable Development Goal 11, okay, sustainable cities and communities. So you can see, wastewater treatment is very critical to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. That's the reason that we sure focus on this. Now I will go to introduce 3 projects we are working on. So one is sustainable management of animal manure and animal slurry. So animal produce a lot of wastewater. Okay, so what do we do that? Okay, we can use anaerobic digestion process to produce biogas from animal waste. And this biogas is a type of renewable energy, can use to produce electricity, or can be upgraded to produce biomethane. So this biomethane can be imported to the pipes. And then we can use this as cooking at home. And then the residue from digestion has a high concentration of nitrogen and phosphorus. So we call it as digestate. So it can be used as a fertilizer. We can use it on crops. Okay, so of course we get food from crops. Then the residues of crops can also go to digestion to produce biogas. So we have quantified the greenhouse gas emission, for a average pig farm with a pigs of 10,000 pigs. So if we using the current practice is direct land application of manure. So this one 10,000 pig farm produce 252 tons of carbon dioxide per year. But if we use digestion on the manure alone, the greenhouse gas emission now turn to 12 tons carbon dioxide per year. But if we continue to do this, we use manure and other organic waste, for example, food waste, together to produce biogas, then the greenhouse gas emission now is minus 117 tons carbon dioxide per year. So this means that when we use anaerobic digestion, we can convert the pig farm from carbon positive to carbon negative. Okay, so this is really good for greenhouse gas emission. So we have done quite a lot of work to demonstrate the technology. This one that we built a mesoscale system to demonstrate to farmers. So we had a workshop and demonstrating this technology. This happened in 2012. In 2016, we organized a workshop to engineers and financial investors, because we wanted to engineers and financial investors also they pay attention to this farm scale digesters for animal wastewater management. In this summer, we organized a PhD summer school. So we show this digestion of animal waste to 22 students from 16 European countries. A second example is that we can recover nutrients from wastewater. For example, like urea we produce every day, but urea contains a lot of high concentration of ammonia. We could recover this ammonia as a fertilizer. But what we do is we look at the digestate from the animal waste, because the animal slurry after digestion has quite high concentration of ammonia and phosphorus. So this make the recovery is more economically available. So the technology we use is quite simple. We know that ammonia in the wastewater has a positive charge, and the phosphorus has a negative charge as a phosphate. So we put the wastewater in the electrical field, and then ammonia and the phosphate will leave the wastewater because of the driving force from the electrodes. So in the case, we will get a progress solution with a high concentration of ammonia and phosphate. Then we can use this ammonia and phosphate as a primary fertilizer. For example, here is that you can see this in the left beaker is the animal slurry or digestate. Okay, you can see very dirty. And then we got a very clean product solution. It has 4,000 milligram per liter ammonia and 1,000 milligram per liter of phosphate. The left corner photograph is the prototype system we built with a capacity of 100 liter per hour digestate treatment. So this might be the first one in the world. But we also not only produce chemical fertilizers from the digestate. You can see here we can actually, from the product solution we can produce iron phosphate. So iron phosphate, these crystals has high iron phosphate purity. So iron phosphate is a material is very critical to build a lithium battery. So you can see here, using the technology, we can recover high value products from their wastewater. And then the third example is a project we collaborated with the Professor Dagmar Stengel in botany and Dr. Alex Wang on using microalgae to treat wastewater. So we know that microalgae can have a capacity to uptake nitrogen and phosphorus, but our technology is very unique because microalgae normally very small, so it's very difficult to separate the microalgae, from water. So our technology is actually can provide a solution to this. So you can see here, on the right, this column. So the microalgae is suspended in water. In our technology, the microalgae they can automatically float to the surface of the water. Then we can scrape. When we harvest the microalgae, we just scrape the microalgae from the surface. So with this technology, we can treat wastewater. We can reduce nitrogen and phosphorus to a very, very low level. Okay, so that's very efficient. And also, this microalgae has a very specific property. So you can see here, with a very simple filtration, we can get a very dry microalgae powder. This powder, then we can use to produce high-value products. So what are these high-value products? So you can see, in this photograph, you can see a lot of this bright golden color dots here. So this is the lipids in the microalgae bodies. So this means that we can produce biodiesel. And also this microalgae has quite high level of beta-glucan. So beta-glucan can use boost immune system. Okay, it's quite expensive. 200 grams that costs 50 pounds today on Amazon. And also you can see we can use microalgae to convert wastewater to high-value products, but also because microalgae use photosynthesis. So this means it also can achieve carbon, uptake carbon from the air to achieve carbon sequestration. Okay, so my last slide, the home message, once maintaining clean water is essential for a healthy environment, ecological balance, and biodiversity. And efficient and effective wastewater treatment is crucial for achieving sustainable development goals. So today, wastewater treatment plays a vital role in advancing the circular economy by converting waste to high-value products. Okay. So yeah, thank you very much. If your time limit, I'm finished now. So if you have any questions, please send me email. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Shinmin, for that excellent presentation, both for the introduction to wastewater engineering and those 3 examples of cutting-edge research. If people have questions, if you post them in the Q&A for Shinmin may be able to answer them, or we could follow up at the end or by email. So our next speaker is Dr. Liam Morrison from the School of Natural Sciences.
Thanks, Richard. I'll just share my screen here now with you too. So you can see my screen there. You can see it, Richard, yeah?
Sorry, Liam, not yet.
Ah. You can see it now? No?
No, not yet.
No. Here we go. You can see it now?
Yep, there we go.
Okay, great. I lost that. Whoops. Okay, and thanks, Richard, for this opportunity to talk today. I just wanted, it's kind of a more general talk, really. I wanted to talk a little bit about water and why really water means life. I'm the academic coordinator and the course director here for a new MSc program on marine and freshwater resources management. And I guess really our oceans are so large, they cover about 70% of the surface of our Earth, and they, go to depths greater than the Himalayas. And I suppose for that reason, we have always kind of really considered them to be an inexhaustible source of food. And really, it's only relatively recently in the last few decades that we know that this isn't very much the case. I mean, for centuries, we have used the oceans and we have used the rivers that run into our oceans, unfortunately, to dump our waste in. And I always say to students, if you go down to the docks in Galway or to the docks or the harbour in any major city, you don't see people swimming. And the reason you don't see people swimming is because the evidence of discharges are also evident, but yet only a kilometre, less than a kilometre around the corner, you do see people swimming, as you see here in Salthill and the beaches on Grattan Road. And that's because the idea is instilled in people's mind that distance from source dilutes and means there isn't a problem, and also that if the water looks clean and looks clear, it must be clean. But we know that's not the case, because most of the nasties that we look at in water are invisible, and they require pretty much specialized instrumentation to actually detect them. And often the case is the more we look, the more we find, and the more concerned we become about our water resources. Now, as you know, we are the blue planet, and the oceans cover about 70% of the surface of our planet. It is undoubtedly the largest and most prominent feature on Earth. And I guess we're unique from every other planet in the solar system because we're the only one with water, or certainly some satellite imagery would suggest, or some investigations would suggest that maybe there is some other water, but not to the extent that we have. And I suppose the fact that I'm here today and that all of you are here today is because of water, and ultimately because of the hydrogen bonds in water, but maybe that's for another day. And every organism on the planet requires water to survive. And it also provides so many ecosystem services to us. And that's why I'm involved in and became interested in aquatic-based research. And I suppose what I'm really showing you on this slide is that it's worth remembering that 97% of the water on the planet is in our oceans. So that means that about 3% of it is freshwater. But the majority of what is freshwater is locked up in our cryosphere, in our ice, and also some of it locked up in groundwater. So only a very small percentage of the water on the planet is actually available to us and all the plants and animals for survival. And I always like to use this because it gives an illustrative example of that. Because if you took all the water on the planet and you put it actually into a 208 litre, or your regular drum or barrel, and from that you filled a bath, well, that would be what the oceans were. But if you look down at the very bottom, the eye of the needle is actually what the amount of water in our rivers would be. And the rivers are really what we mostly rely on for our water resources, along with some groundwater as well. And water is everywhere. It's above us in the air, it's below us in the groundwater, and it's here on the surface of the planet as well. And today, our aquatic resources globally are under extreme threat, really, from things like a growing population, increasing demands of agriculture and industry, and also the worsening impacts of climate change. So if you look back, I suppose, to 1918, 1920, the population of the planet was just over 1 billion people. Now we're approaching almost 9 billion people. And when we have that great expansion in population, you're going to have the associated demand for food to feed that population. And as a result of that, you're going to have the intensification of agriculture, the requirement for raw materials, all of these that water are very supportive of. Now, every 4 years or so, the Irish Environment Protection Agency bring out a State of the Environment report. And actually, I thought because it's quite topical at the moment, and it has just been released in the last few weeks, that I would summarise some information from it about our marine and freshwater resources and their status in Ireland. And really, this report, it's available online. It makes for mixed reading, really, and maybe is a call for action for all of us on the sustainable use and protection of our aquatic resources. So in terms of the full picture, although our offshore waters are generally considered relatively clean and healthy, our nearshore waters, they're pretty much under increasing pressure all the time. And in Ireland, the marine area, actually, you're familiar with that, the real map of Ireland, our marine area is about 10 times the landmass of Ireland. So about 54% of our surface waters, including our rivers, lakes, estuaries, and coastal waters, are in what we call higher good status. Also, our coastal waters are the highest category, where we have the greatest percentage at a satisfactory condition, about 81%. Our estuarine environments, our transitional waters, are the lowest at about 36%. And the most recent report would indicate to us that overall, the declines are offset or the improvements are offset by declines. And also, if you look at our rivers, and this is based on the biological indices that are used looking at the micro invertebrate communities in our rivers, we can really see since about 2007 right up to 2023, there's really no indication of an overall improvement in the quality of our rivers. And again, the improvements are frequently being offset by declines. Also, in terms of nitrates in our rivers, the report would indicate to us that 42% of our river sites already have nitrate concentrations above what would be considered an appropriate or a satisfactory level, and that there's been no improvement over time. As you can see here, looking at the average concentrations, we'll say from 2020 right up until 2023. Also, it's a similar case when we look at our nitrogen in our estuaries and coastal waters. 17% of water bodies have unsatisfactory nitrogen concentrations, and many of these are in the south and southeast of the country. And again, this comes back, and if you look at land use patterns in the area, these are often areas of very heavy or intensive agriculture, where you would have a lot of dairy farms, and you'd also have a very heavy stocking density in these areas. And the report also, I suppose, summarises what are the stressors, what are the pressures, where are they coming from in Ireland? Well, agriculture is one of the big ones that we can see over the various years. And the associated, we'll say, runoff and nutrient concentrations, and also in pesticides, because our drinking water frequently fails based on MCPA herbicide levels in it. Also hydromorphical pressures with ports, with city environments where we have changed habitats and habitat structure, and also forestry. And of course, the report does talk also about urban wastewater and the need really to modernise our wastewater infrastructure in our urban areas to reduce the release of untreated sewage into our coastal environment. And action is really needed across all of these sectors. My own research here at the University of Galway is kind of multidisciplinary research, looking at our aquatic resources. A number of years ago, I had 2 EPA-funded projects looking at macroalgal blooms in estuaries, and looking at the impact of those, the CMAT project and the Macroman project. The Macroman project just finished a few years ago. And moving on from that, we got some European funding, looking at nature-based solutions, looking at marine restoration. And this is a project called Climarest, which runs across Europe with a number of partners, where we're looking at, in Ireland, we're looking at seagrass restoration. In France, they're looking at mussels, oyster restoration, and in Portugal they're looking at kelps and seaweed restoration. Also, we've been working quite a bit on microplastics, and we have another Horizon funded project here on microplastics that's looking in particular at landfill leachate and its potential to contaminate water bodies as a result of microplastics, because alongside wastewater treatment plants, landfills also are a major source of microplastic fibers and particles in our environment. I'm also involved with ATU on a joint SFI funded Frontiers program, which was the program to use the previous IoTs and the universities. And this is looking at fingerprinting and traceability tools for identifying harvesting areas or the origin of seafood produce, which is very important in terms of reputation and also in terms of consumer confidence in our sustainable fisheries. We also work on drinking water, and we currently have a project looking at manganese concentrations in drinking water. And elevated manganese is an issue in many locations around the country. There's a number of factors associated with it. It can be from surface waters that are groundwater fed. It also has to do with stratification in our lakes over the year, and the increased runoff of agricultural effluent into our lakes, which is causing the mobilization of the manganese in our systems. And then just finally, some other projects, recently funded projects. We have a project looking at artificial and naturally occurring radionuclides, particularly in oysters and wild and farmed salmon in Ireland. We have another project that has just been funded on pesticides and PFAS, particularly in drinking water, and also the Safe Waste project, which is looking at organic waste in Ireland and assessing the chemical, microbial in terms and metals and metalloids and microplastic content of it in terms of the safety of applying organic waste to farmland in Ireland. So that's it for me, Richard.
Thanks very much, Liam. Again, another excellent presentation giving us that background to water, how the role of water plays in life, and then clearly connecting that to your own large array of projects there. I don't know how you stay on top of all of them. So thanks very much for that, Liam. And then our next speaker is Professor Olivier Thomas from the School of Biological and Chemical Sciences.
Thank you very much, Richard. Listen, I'm trying to share my screen here as well. Yes. Is it okay, Richard? Yeah.
Yeah, if you just maybe try the screen share mode.
Yeah, like this. Is it okay? Yeah.
Yeah, we've your presenter view there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm not too sure. Let me check this. Maybe better like this. Yeah, is it?
That's perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Richard, for the invitation. I'm very pleased here to attend a meeting about sustainability. That's obviously something extremely important for what we're doing here in the School of Biological and Chemical Sciences and the Ryan Institute, I must say. So I just wanted to introduce a bit what we've done in terms of the construction of an Irish marine biomaterial repository and how this led to 2 very important projects in this area. So obviously here we are targeting the SDG 14, and especially the bioresources. So obviously there are concerns, there are challenges in terms of quality of the water, as Liam and Shimin said before, but then there's also a huge potential for using these resources for different activities, right? So of course the future of Ireland is tightly bound to the future of its seas and oceans. And as you know, this is the ocean decade of the ocean. So it links totally humans and society with the ocean. And that's something we need to keep in mind here, is that we are tightly linked, and certainly more and more now with climate change, etc., on our seas, and especially on this island with huge surface of seas, and of course a huge amount of marine bioresources there. So in terms of marine bioresources, so we work closely with the Marine Institute to assess actually the potential of marine bioresources to give some options for the blue bioeconomy in this island. It's clearly been neglected in the last years. So the idea here is to see what kind of potential do we have in this island of Ireland to propose new products, new processes from the sea. So we do have a lot of fishermen, we do have a lot of aquaculture and seaweeds especially, but there is more than that, right? And obviously now, and we're all aware of that there is a decline in terms of access to fish in our seas, and some species, not all of them, I must say, but cod especially, they are declining. And obviously we need now to turn our attention to certainly other species that we have in our coasts, okay? So this is a picture I took from the Skerda rocks in Connemara there, where you can see that actually we have a huge diversity, especially in the benthic area there, that is available for different uses, right? So we are now, and this is acknowledged by everybody, I think, that we are now in the middle of what we call the seaweed revolution, where actually seaweeds are present in huge biomass. They have been used in this island, especially historically for food, essentially, but also for some actions against some diseases, but very little, right? And we're entering now an area where certainly there is a lot of value of what the seaweeds can produce, but not only seaweeds, as you see in the picture here, we're also working on sponges and all type of invertebrates that are covering the coast of our shores. So what can we do with these actually resources, right? These resources, they produce biomolecules, and we need to be aware that these biomolecules are actually still unique to this marine environment, right? So they are not found in the terrestrial environment as the same way. So we use them, and of course in Japan, in Asia, essentially they know that because they of course eat a lot of seaweeds, and that's certainly one of the reasons of their life duration. So you can see the benefit of eating seaweeds as well, and not only fishes, okay? In this country, in Ireland, we use them a lot for fertilizers, biostimulants, but the applications are a bit limited. So when I came here 10 years ago, the idea was to see if we could give a higher value to actually the biomolecules and the components that these marine resources contain in this island. So especially application in cosmetics and drugs, these are applications that are clearly underestimated. People don't really know what we can do in terms of cosmetics and drugs. More and more, obviously, companies turn toward the natural aspect of this, and they come to see in the marine environment what we could offer as well. But in terms of drugs as well, we're working here in the school to find new applications as drugs. You can see here a list of 15 drugs. Maybe it's not very readable, but there is like 5 or 6 companies over the world here who are working on drugs, especially to treat cancer. 15 of them are in the market today. There's huge potential. There's a leading company in Spain, Famamar, who are actually commercializing now 3 compounds anti-cancer. And this is during the last 10 or 20 years. So clearly now we do have a pharmacology, a marine pharmacology, as we call it. So there's huge potential. This is long-term investigation, but obviously there is potential there. So we decided when we arrived here to actually work closely with the Marine Institute. They funded us, our research center here in the school, to develop what we call an Irish marine biomaterial repository, okay? The idea is really to work closely with the fishermen and other small providers of marine resources, such as Cindy here in Abalone, Connemara. We have a lot of small companies trying to really use the marine resources we have to develop new products and new processes, okay? Unfortunately, they are very small in size. Usually it's because many of the products, they are they have actually in the market, it's only food or fertilizers with low added value, right? So we decided with the Marine Institute support again to develop this Irish Marine Biomaterial Repository. So I will just show you quickly what is the aim of this repository. So it was initially based at the Marine Institute. We brought it back now to the university, thanks to the Marine Institute as well. What we're doing is we work closely with the providers along the coast of Ireland. We help them identifying the species. So we do taxonomy, chemical screening, biological screening. We store the material in freezers, well identified, well maintained and monitored, okay? And then on the other side, we work with users of this material. As chemists, biologists, we have contacts with pharma companies, with people who are actually screening all this repository for potential activities and different type of activities. So we work with different pharma companies, small, bigger, cosmetic companies as well, in France especially. But there's huge potential there. So after building this repository along the last, let's say, 6 to 8 years, so we've been able to have this now up and running, making this available for different companies. So we are currently working with companies in the UK, for example, Syngenta, in France, cosmetic companies as well, like Chanel, etc., to actually provide them with material that they don't have, right? So the approach that we have developed is really based on integrative taxonomy. What we want to provide here is a service with good quality science provided to all the users of these marine resources, identifying the species, trying to identify the changes in terms of biodiversity as well, but also working closely with applications, medicines, industry, farming as well. And that links obviously to education, ecology, nature conservation, and public sector. So that's really the approach that we are developing here. The workflow is the following. It has been inspired really by the Marine Institute, what they've developed in the Marine Institute initially. So huge amount of collaborations. What we do is we go to the field, okay? We work also with the people who have access to species in the field, and we have very strict process guidelines, okay, to work data management systems in place to actually work precisely the samples that we have. We store them again, we check them, we monitor them. It requires a huge amount of resources, obviously, so we work on different funding possibilities there. So we do some biological, very basic biological screenings in-house, but we mainly actually work with people who have applications. And what we do is identifying the resources in terms of biomolecules, okay? We describe the structures, we identify properly the structures. We have a chemical inventory now available of marine compounds from Ireland. And then we are interacting with other people who might have a use of them. So we do have a physical repository available for all our colleagues in this island, but also abroad. So we have voucher samples maintained by taxonomists. We interact a lot with taxonomists on seaweeds and sponges, especially. We have the biomass available in case that they need biomass for further studies. That will speed up the process actually of analyzing what we have for different companies, essentially. So we're not only a museum, but we also provide material, fractions, products available readily for people to be used and tested, if you want, on different actions. So with more than 400 samples and more than 200 species collected, stored, and available, macro, invertebrates, and seaweeds, 1,200 fractions, 100 biomolecules available, and we are now interacting with people in different projects to valorize what we have done. This wouldn't work without a digital repository, and that's certainly the main aspect that we've developed. This is a web database, so we work with a web designer where all our samples are properly stored, identified, and tracked, actually properly linked to worms, actually, in terms of species identification. And we have a CMS as well, so that's a content management system where you actually locate where the samples have been located. As you can see here, that's mainly the west coast of Ireland. The east coast is mainly sandy, so there's much less for us, I would say, but it's also easier for us to collect on the west coast of Ireland. So this biomaterial is available. We work, again, permanently on this, enriching this biomaterial. This kind of unique approach, it's been now applied at different levels, and especially in a sustainable way. The idea we have behind that is clearly to really make this very scientifically accurate in terms of description of species, material, content, biomolecules. And we were able to interact with the Coast Action Ocean for Biotech to apply this at a European level. Now it's present in 12 different countries. We applied exactly the same system, especially for the web database, to map, to track our samples across the different partners. So at the center of it, as I said, it's clearly the sustainability and the 3 pillars of sustainability. There's clearly social benefits. We work closely with small companies selling marine bioresources. We try to apply that for getting higher value. So there's an economic value here, the blue economy. And obviously, the approach is to collect very little amount of sample at the beginning to describe what we have. So the idea is to really work in a sustainable environment here, to also protect the amount of material that we are collecting. So some key outputs here, and I'm nearly done here, and I would never thank enough, certainly Frances, to have hosted us at the Carna Marine Station. This clearly helped us to develop a new project that I'm leading here, a Horizon Europe project that's called Combo, and it's to develop innovative cultivation methods for marine biodiscovery. That's based in Connemara. That's interacting a lot with the small companies in Connemara as well. We have 2 of them involved. We're doing workshop there to show them the potential, to especially the schools in Connemara, to show them the potential of these approaches and the resources we have on our coast. Obviously, there are more people involved in this project. There's 12 partners coming from South Africa up to the north of Europe. And recently, actually last week, and thanks to Alison and Relivium, we've been funded through a big project, DTIF project called Restore. 4.6 million have been afforded to Relivium, and we're part of it because we have discovered in our repository some compound that will be very active against inflammation and near osteoarthritis. So that's showing actually the potential now of this repository and how far we went now into the validation of what we have built in a sustainable manner, because the main advantage of this is that you avoid repeating always the same analysis, studies, and I think that can provide a lot, obviously, for all our colleagues interested on this potential. So I would like to finish thanking all the people who have contributed to the success, I think, of this repository. So the Marine Institute, really for the first 5 years, I'm really helping building this repository. BIM now is helping us to find actually small companies who need our expertise. So we're working on different SFI projects as well, and also with different small companies to develop these Interreg projects as well. And I would never thank enough, certainly Frances, for the full support at Carna Station, Oliver Nee as well as CTO, to help developing this station that will help us finding new sustainable ways of providing amount of sample necessary for our studies. And obviously, Maggie, who is the taxonomist in charge of it, Lawrence, who did the chemistry and who is now a researcher at the Emirates, and Dagmar, who has always believed certainly on the potential of this repository and on the seaweeds, convinced me to work on seaweed. So thank you all for your support. Thank you, Richard, again for the invitation.
Thank you, Olivier, for that fascinating presentation. So we're just coming towards the end of the webinar. I'm going to close with a couple of slides to launch our new sustainability fund. While I'm speaking, if you have any questions for our speakers, so they were Shinmin, Liam, or Olivier, please do post them in the Q&A over the next couple of minutes. And if we don't get to them, we will try to follow up by email. So I'm just going to share a couple of slides. So I would just like to use this opportunity to formally launch our Sustainability Engagement Fund for the academic year 24-25. This is the first year that we're launching this fund. It's in its pilot year, and we really would welcome your interaction with this fund, and that we would develop it out for future years. So firstly, and I'm conscious that we have quite a mixed audience on the webinar, and thank you very much to everyone for joining. This fund is targeted at student and staff-led projects. They are students or staff of the University of Galway. A project could be a student-only group, it could be a staff-only group, or it could be a mix of students and staff together. Community partners are also very welcome, but just the lead partner would need to be a University of Galway student or staff. In terms of one technical requirement, there is a need for a D account. So that's an internal University of Galway departmental account, and that's where we would be able to transfer the grant. So if there is a student out there, a student group, that you would need to work with a member of staff that has a D account and that would act as a mentor for your project. The grants that we're looking to disperse will normally be in the region of €1,000 to €2,000. Again, this is our first year with this fund. Perhaps in the future we would be able to fund larger projects, but really now we're looking at this range of between €1,000 to €2,000 per project. And then the actual engagement activities themselves. We haven't put a strict definition on what exactly we mean by engagement here. We really do want to hear your proposals. This could be, it could be a workshop, it could be a guest lecture, it could be a site visit somewhere, it could be working with the school, it could be working with local residents, with policymakers, or indeed here on the University of Galway campus. Really what we're trying to do is to promote the level of engagement with the likes of the work that we heard there from Francis, from Olivier, from Liam, and from Shinmin, that trying to engage our communities, our policymakers, and our students on staff on generally projects related to water. And those being linked to two particular SDGs that you would have heard our speakers today mention quite a few times. So the first is SDG 6, so that is clean water and sanitation, and the second being SDG 14, life below water. And of course, there is a strong relationship between those two SDGs. We feel that there is quite a lot of teaching and research on campus here on those SDGs, and really we want to promote engagement with the wider community on all of that good work that's done here at the university. So the deadline for applications to the Sustainability Engagement Fund is on Friday, the 29th of November. So that's in less than 3 weeks away. And then you'll find a lot more information and an application form on our website. That is universityofgalway.ie/sustainability. If you would like any more information, please do post a question in the Q&A over the next minute or so, or you can visit our website and you'll also see our email address there is sustainability@universityofgalway.ie. So just finally, I'd like to thank everyone again for attending this webinar. Again, would like to thank our speakers, Francis, Shinmin, Liam, and Olivier. And again, would really strongly encourage everyone there to engage with us at sustainability@universityofgalway.ie and to consider applying for our Sustainability Engagement Fund.